So this is my presentation on labor statistics. So first we need to look at some definitions for employment and unemployment. Unemployment would be classified as anyone who is working a part-time or full-time job. Unemployment, we have anyone that is not working currently but are actively seeking employment. That means that they are currently searching for a job even though they do not have one. It is important to look at those who are not currently employed but are also not seeking employment. These people are called discouraged workers since they have given up searching for a job because they have become discouraged and are no longer trying to enter the workforce. These people are not counted as employed or unemployed. Since these discouraged workers are not included in the labor force, it will actually decrease the unemployment rate, which will understate the true degree of joblessness in the economy, and it will make the economy look healthier than it actually is. Then we have the labor force, which is the total sum of employed and unemployed workers in the economy. For employment and unemployment rates, these are some of the ways in which you could measure the unemployment and employment rates in certain economies. So for the employment rate, we have the percentage of people who are older than 15 that are employed. For the unemployment rate, we have the percentage of the labor force that is unemployed. This specifically accounts for the percentage of the labor force that is unemployed, and not for everyone above the age of 15. Then we have some different equations which we can use to measure either the labor force participation rate or the employment and unemployment rates. So the labor force participation rate is the labor force divided by the number of people older than 15. And then if you want to get that into a percentage, you'll just multiply by 100, which is the same thing for the next two. Then you have the employment rate equation, which is the number of employed divided by the number of people that are older than 15. Then you have the unemployment rate equation, which is the number of unemployed divided by the labor force. And you can use all three of these different equations to measure these three stats in different economies. We have some questions. So we have, which of the following individuals are considered to be discouraged workers? So we have Albert, who has been working as a teacher for 10 years. Well, it sounds like Albert is still employed, so he is not discouraged. We have Bob, who recently lost his job as a coal miner because the company has found more efficient ways to mine with machines, but is trying to get a new job as a construction worker. Bob sounds like he is unemployed because he lost his job, but is still actively seeking a new one, so he is not discouraged. Carter, who lost his job over a year ago and has given up searching for another job. It sounds like Carter is a discouraged worker because he is unemployed, but he is also not looking for another job, so he counts as a discouraged worker. And then we have Donald, who retired last month. Since Donald retired, he actually left the labor force, so he is not counted as a discouraged worker. So I think C is the correct answer. And we can see that C is the correct answer because a discouraged worker is someone who is not working and has given up searching for another job, and Carter is the only one of these individuals that fits this criteria. So another question, we have, which of the following individuals are considered to be unemployed? We have Alexander, who works part-time for a total of 20 hours a week. Remember, even though he's not working full-time, he is still considered employed, even if it is still a part-time job. We have Bernard, who is a university student and will not apply for a job until after he graduates. So we need to remember that full-time students, as well as retirees, are not in the labor force. They are not a part of it. We have Carol, who lost her job due to a recession and has given up searching for another job. Carol sounds more like a discouraged worker than someone who is necessarily unemployed. Then we have D, Deborah, who moved to a different town and is applying for jobs in the new town. That sounds like it fits into the category of unemployed because she does not have a job currently, but she is looking for one. We have the correct answer is D. To be considered unemployed, you need to be out of work but still be pursuing a job, and Deborah is the only one of these individuals that fits this criteria. Then, let's do a question about unemployment rate. We have, as of 2019, there were 126.3 million people living in Japan. Let's say that hypothetically, there are also 88.41 million people who are aged 15 or older. There are also 72.47 million people who are employed and 5.53 million people who are unemployed. What is the labor force participation rate, and what is the employment rate? What is the unemployment rate? So, I've pulled our equations over from one of the previous slides. So, if we want to calculate the labor force, we will just do the number of employed people plus the number of unemployed people, which will get us a total of 78 million. Then for labor force participation, we are doing the labor force divided by the number of people older than 15. So we do 78 million people divided by 88.41 million people. Multiply that number by 100 to get it into a percentage stat. We get 88.23% of the working age population of Japan are participating in the workforce. Then for employment rate, we have the number of employed people divided by the number of people who are age 15 or older. So that means we have 72.47 million people divided by 88.41 million people. Multiply that by 100 to get a percent. We have 81.97% of the working age population of Japan are employed. Then we look at unemployment rate, which is the number of unemployed divided by the labor force, which in this case would be 5.53 million people divided by 78 million people, times 100 to get a percentage, and we can see that that is 7.09% of the working age population of Japan are unemployed. Then in the works cited, all the definitions that I used were found from our textbook, the Macroeconomics, Hubbard O'Brien, Rafferty, and Kaninsky Canadian edition.